Hey, RevTech here. Last week I was in Puerto Rico for the American Baptist Churches USA Biennial Mission Summit. Yes, that's a mouthful. And sadly, it wasn't all for fun, it was actually for work. In addition to having to give a keynote on the future of the web and mobile application my awesome developer team is building, I'll share more about that in the future. I had to set up and run a multiple camera hybrid in-person and live streaming stage experience in the conference exhibit hall. One thing I can tell you is that whether I am here at our office headquarters or whether I'm out on the road somewhere else, whenever I have a setup like this, I cannot tell you how many times folks are coming up to me and asking some version of the question,
what's your setup, or how are you doing what you do?
In terms of this whole live streaming thing that you have here. They see lots of equipment, they want to know how. So here it is. I'm answering those questions. I'm sharing what I'm using and how we're doing it. I'm sharing the cameras, the switches, the controllers, the software, and even the coffee I drink to make it happen. I'm letting you see how the sausage is made. And this is something you can use for your nonprofit, your community organizing group, your church, or however you are assembling people together in a space where there's a stage, people are presenting, and you also want to be able to share that information live, broadcasting through all your social media networks. This is it, so let's get to it. So, big disclaimer, before we begin anything, I have to say something right here. I'm pretty proud of what we've been able to achieve here, but it did not happen overnight. It definitely took time. And this is a big point. My live stream didn't come immediately overnight, and your ideal setup probably won't come overnight either. If it does, awesome. But if not, that's okay. So understand that your perfect setup won't happen overnight. Take your time, slowly iterate, continue to tweak, add to, remove from, until you get what works for you. All right, so let's start with an overview of the setup of the space. I guess we roughly had around 600 to 650 square foot of space that we're working with. The center of the space in which we were dealing with, there's a stage. The stage is about 8 foot by 12 foot in size. It's about 2 feet off the ground. And the center of the stage is a large LCD 75-inch TV. And in the front of that TV, there are 4 chairs and also a couch that we switch in and out for people who are coming to the stage. In addition to that, there's also an audio system that the conference has provided for us, and it's just amplification. And so there are wireless mics that people can use. There's a small soundboard that we can throttle up and down. And then there's a large speaker that we're using for the amplification for the area in itself. That's the basic setup. In front of the stage, we've got 2 rows of chairs. And to the right of the stage, we also have a control center. That's where all of our tech is going to be and setting up the experience. In addition, we're going to have 2 cameras, and we're using the Canon N300 point tilt zoom remote cameras. I love them. I'll talk more about that in a second. One is stationed to the left of the stage and maybe recessed back about 6 feet into the audience. And then the other one is to the right of the stage, and it's right at the corner of the stage. It's also elevated higher. And so I've got one that's roughly, 6 foot, 7 foot in the air. Another one that's about 10 foot in the air. They're all on tripods themselves. One's close to the stage, and one's far to the stage. And that's what we're working with. Okay, there's another disclaimer that I have to add here. I'm looking in terms of the pricing for all the equipment that I have. It's not very low end, but it's not very high end either. It's somewhere in the middle. Yes, I understand that mid-range pricing for tech equipment can be subjective, but just bear with me. I'm answering the question that folks are asking, what's the setup that you're using right now? I'm willing to invest a little bit of money from a church or my nonprofit, my organization, and I want something that's going to last for a good while without having to replace everything in the next couple of years. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. If you're interested in having something on a much lower end or even a much higher end, definitely let me know in the comments, and I'll see what I can do in the future to meet that need. So this is the mid-range pricing guide that we're working with. Alrighty, so yes, the top thing, the first thing that always comes to the mind whenever you're talking about live streaming, anything that involves broadcast is going to be the cameras. Now, I've always been a really big fan of the Blackmagic studio cams. I've used them pretty much all the way up and through this past weekend, but I found myself in a rough situation where my colleague who's normally with me wasn't able to go with me. And so it was sort of just me, and I had an intern working with me, fabulous daughter right there, an intern working with me. And so I needed something that we could run really quickly, and something that I could have either myself or her primarily run if I wasn't there on her own. And so this sort of pushed me into the notion of using PTZ, point tilt zoom cameras that I could control all over the way. I love the studio cams from Blackmagic Design. I love them. I love them. Can I tell you that I love them? Did I tell you that I love them? I think you understand the point. But the one thing I can't do, I can remote control them and I can zoom in and out, but I can't remote control panning and tilting with them. And so I wanted something that was going to fit that particular need. So the Canon CRN300s, 4K, NDI, point tilt zoom cameras with a 20x zoom really came in and fit the bill. First of all, they're really portable. They're really small. They're roughly about the size of a small seedless watermelon. I had both of them inside a really great travel and pack bag. So the second thing I liked about them is the fact that they were full point tilt zoom control. And so they come with a remote control that you can use. You can connect via software to the particular cameras that you're using, and you can control them through the computer in addition to the handheld remote. And lastly, that 20x zoom worked really, really well. Depending on where people were positioned on the stage, it was real easy for us to reset the cameras for those particular positions. And in addition to that, we could also manipulate the cameras during the live production as well, going back and forth between them. And that 20x zoom going all the way in and all the way out, I could see pimples and freckles on people's faces, and it did not lose, it did not distort. Quality came through the whole point in time. That 4K really sang it in. I actually chose to use the Canon RC IP100 touchscreen point tilt zoom joystick controller. It's a long name, lots of words, but basically it's a remote control for those two cameras. So this won't necessarily be just plug and play. There is a little bit of a learning curve. If you're interested in learning how I set these things up, let me know in the comments. I'll do another video. What's also awesome is that this thing is built for expansion. This controller can eventually control up to 100 cameras. Now, I'll probably never have 100 cameras all in place together, but it's good to know that no matter how many other cameras I add to the stack, I'll be able to control all those through this one controller in-house. The next big thing is the switcher. So if you don't know, the switcher is the device that you use for basically switching back and forth between cameras. And whichever camera is live, that's what actually gets sent to the feed that you're live casting or you're broadcasting or you're recording from. I personally think that Blackmagic and the ATEM from Blackmagic has really set the stage. And here's the deal. Unless you're using more than 4 cameras at one time, you probably won't even need to expand any more than that. It's a utility you're going to be glad you purchased, and it's going to last you a really long time. So for audio, I'm using the Rodecaster Pro 2. I like it because it's just really simple and easy to use for someone who may have never used a soundboard before. It's got a minimal interface. It's real easy to see the feed coming in through the digital display that's on the actual device itself. It's real easy to connect to external sources. And then the Rodecaster connects flawlessly to the computer itself. And it's an input channel into the computer. And so whether I'm doing this through something like Zoom, whether I'm doing it through Restream, or whether I'm doing it through StreamYard, whatever the software that I'm using, it just shows up as the audio source Rodecaster. And it makes it just dirt simple to come in and come out. It works really well, and it's pretty simple. So, thanks for listening through all of this. I hope that this has been of value to you. If there's a question or something you want to learn more about, please leave your comments in the comments section. I'll do my best to answer them. If there's something you want me to talk or expound a little bit more on, let me know that too. And as always, keep the faith and stay curious.